one of those cars that I don't get the purpose of. I mean, I don't hate it. It's not a bad car. I think it was a little unfair in my characterization of this from, oh my, fuck you, contender. No, you know what? No. No. You are going to eat a dick today. Wow.
Well, there you go. That's a very inauspicious start to a getaway that is kind of a mess. I drive the Feroci here, as you can see, and it's an interesting car. It's kind of quick, but it's not that quick. I mean, it'll lose in a drag race to things like the News Cruiser or the Vigero, especially. And nice weight transferring there. As you can see, I made it a lot harder on myself. I should have just let the car go instead of trying to weight transfer the other way. But, see, the Feroci, it's a car that doesn't really know what it wants to be. It wants to be a sports sedan, so it's, quick enough in its class. That's an expression I use a lot. But it is. But it's not really that quick. I mean, it's only slightly quicker than a Schafter, and even then, it would be a very close drag race. And mind you, the Schafter, it's got about the same ground clearance, but it resists collisions and bullets, and much better. The Feroci here, it's extremely fragile, but it's not even that quick, and it handles okay. But as you saw, some bumps like those staircases can really upset it, and then you see things like that. I think it needs a little more downforce, but even with more downforce, I still wouldn't like the car very much. I mean, it looks decent enough. It's a Cadillac Catera. Ooh, yes, murder the light posts. But it's just not. I'm just not feeling it. I mean, it reminds me a lot of the Feltzer. It tries to be sporty, but it just is too weak, and it just lets itself down. I feel like I need a parachute, or perhaps an anchor, because this car just keeps letting me down. I'd rather let me down slowly. This is just not what it does. I mean, and then, of course, that's not on the Feroci, though. I mean, hitting that light pole or the telephone pole is not smart. So I'm thinking, all right, well, they're going to be swarming around me. I want to make sure nobody shoots out this thing's tires. So I use my AA-12 highly skilled weapon. Decent on infantry if you can get direct hits with it, but it's much better on vehicles. And I'm making sure they're shooting around me and not around the car. Because if I lose tires on this thing, I mean, the thing already drives kind of goofy already. It doesn't need to be made any worse. There we go. That was good use of timing of an explosion there. That got the SWAT guys to get scared, so then they would no longer be shooting at me. They all dove for cover, even though, I mean, you just have a lot of hearing issues and you'd probably be injured from all the shrapnel. But hey, GTA 4 only has a touch of realism, and it usually works. Unlike the Feroci here. I mean, I'm actually trying to drive this car pretty fast, but it just doesn't handle transitions well. See, like that when I hit the tree there, it got upset by the bump. I mean, you have to hit things very carefully with it. And now I'm going to try and just speed away, but it just doesn't work. This Impala here, he's got my number. And then he hits me again. I'm thinking, oh my god, this stupid thing. Now you got to realize, I had maybe 2 decently big crashes. Yeah, maybe, but I shouldn't be smoking from that. I'm only now just starting to take a lot of gunfire. And for a car that gives you penalties to ground clearance and wheel durability and bullet resistance, it should not be this slow. But it is, because it's the Feroci. It's kind of a turd. Especially in the Ballad of Gay Tony when you have things like the Civilian Buffalo or the Police Buffalo. Those are my 2 favorites, obviously. And see, look at how it didn't hit that bump clean either. 10 out of 10. Would drive again. Not really. I fucking hate this car. It's not as bad as some other cars in this game. I mean, it's not like I'm trying to use a Secura car or an Enforcer. I mean, I have some speed. As you can see, I'm actually going pretty good through here, but I don't know. It's a car that I just can't get it to string together. It's not fast enough relative to its trade-offs in durability. I mean, this is a car that perhaps if you were starting or want to learn to drive, it would be a good idea, but even then, I mean, there are far better cars to start off driving. I started off driving news cruisers and police patrols, and then I moved on to other more challenging cars like the FIB Buffalo, Ruiner, Vigero somewhere in between. Faction's a pretty challenging car, but that thing freaking rips, and it can take some decent damage, too. This thing neither rips nor takes decent damage. I mean, yeah, it'll beat some cars in its class in drag race. I mean, and certainly compared to the Intruder, this is a better car on paper because it's narrower, it's got slightly better ground clearance, it's slightly quicker. I mean, not a lot, but it will win in a drag race. But they're just better choices, and after this, I just have had it with this car. I mean, the thing's about to die anyway, so I take a quick peek around. Yeah, Merit Taxi, that's not the greatest. There is, however, a first generation Schafter, which I happily take. Not a terrible car, definitely on the slower side, and definitely outclassed now, certainly that I've driven so many other cars. I mean, when I first really got into getaways in this game, I thought the Mafia Schafter specifically was the be-all and end-all. But it's what happens. You keep driving different cars and you find things that are better. The Schafter isn't perfect either. I mean, it's kind of bad at vertical obstacles and it's kind of slow. But it handles really well. And it's really narrow. Narrower than the Feroci. And the Feroci's already kind of a thin car. This is even more so, and you can use that to great effect. I mean, the Schafter is a handling-centric car that's just quick enough to get out of trouble. You do have to plan ahead a little bit with it, though. Peyote. That car's a toilet. I mean, I don't want to sound like I was being a little too hard on the Feroci here, but even just from starting to drive the Schafter, it feels so much better. The thing doesn't have that stupid, I can't climb things problem. Now, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. The Schafter, it can't climb a lot of things, but it handles bumps really well. This makes sense. It doesn't have a lot of ground clearance, but it has a lot of suspension travel. That's why you can land jumps with this and it won't care. That's why you can hit bumps unevenly like I did a little earlier and it won't care. But that's also because it can't climb staircases. That's why, in a lot of ways, it reminds me of the civilian Buffalo with the way the suspension's set up. So it's very good. It's right about where it should be. And I was trying to get the SWAT guys to dismount from their truck, and it didn't work. Usually in GTA 4 Original, if you shoot out, at least on foot, one of their guys, they all dismount. And if you shoot them out from a car and then wait, I think the other 3 or so will usually dismount. But they didn't do that for some reason. I guess they were content on just using one of their compatriots as a meat shield. Oh well. Now, thinking about taking a jump there, you saw how I was swerving a little bit towards the middle. I thought, maybe I'll go for it. I've got enough speed. I'll definitely clear that wall, but I don't like the way this car's wheels are. I mean, I have not taken any damage to the wheels from jumps or hitting bumps. It's from me just not driving properly or me hitting scenery. That's not the car's fault. You can't pin any of that on the car like that. That was not the car's fault. Neither was the first crash, and neither was that. I was stuck. So I get a little annoyed, and I shoot out the coppers there, and the Crown Vic does this weird, 180 and slides into a wall. I didn't think I got both guys with that one. All right, I'll take it. But now you're starting to see with the Schafter, you see what the problem is? It has issues climbing vertical obstacles. I mean, it handled that bump okay. Like, I didn't take any additional damage from it, but it will lose a lot of speed if you go over vertical obstacles. I mean, that wasn't the best example, but you can tell the Schafter's a little out of its element here, and that plus my lack of practice really shows. I mean, like, see how it porpoises and here I'm very surprised that it did not hydrolock the car. I mean, that is a miracle if I've ever seen one, because this is a problem with low slung cars that are going down an incline. Even at an angle, if that water gets above a certain point, your engine's stuck. And then you got to push it out, preferably with a helicopter, although you could theoretically do it with a boat or another car, and then you can drive it again. But at this point, the Schafter is on its way out, so I figure, well, let's just drive around and figure the airport's got some stationary spawns. They've got a Sentinel, which isn't a fantastic car, but it's probably a little bit better suited to this terrain than the Schafter is. And I like how he lost a tire and did a perfect barrel roll and did a clean landing. That was just great. So I figure, well, now wait a second. This airport, even if it has airport Ferocis, even that is an upgrade over this trash Schafter. And then I see Schafters and Vigeros in the same parking lot. And it is at that moment he knew he had a boner. So I do the smart thing and shoot out the windows, and because this is GTA 4 and it is immersive and realistic, shooting out the glass unlocks all the doors. And apparently the ignition wires and started circuit is so easily accessible, you literally reach your hands up around the steering column and go. Now, that being said, GTA 4 isn't completely unrealistic. I mean, the General Motors G-body cars, I mean, I haven't read too much on them. I'm far more interested in Ford Panther platform and the General Motors B and C body cars, certainly from the mid-70s up until the mid-1990s. But the G bodies are kind of cool too, and people say they're as easy to steal as a bicycle. And they say, well, why is that? Well, because GTA 4 is a little exaggerated with how easy it is to get the start circuit going for these cars and how easy it is to break the locks or just get around them and pop the door open. And that is how not to go through chain link fence. I should have paid a little more attention there. I also knew there wasn't really much of a way I was going to stop there, but I was using a little bit more noggin, I would have cut an e-brake drift and just would have slid gently sideways into it. And you hit it square, you're not going to do any wheel damage. It's when you hit it at weird angles, or you hit it too close to your front or rear wheel, is when you're going to have problems. But oh well. And of course I can't break the fence, so I got to get a little bit more of a running start. Good old Vigero, first world problems here. There we go. Much better. And just, see, look at this car. I mean, even when it does little things like that with the fence, I still have a lot of fun driving it, and it's a much better car for getaways than the Feroci and even the Schafter. Both the first and the second generation, although I would much rather drive the first generation Schafter than the second. The second generation doesn't really give you anything more than the first, but it's a bigger target with less ground clearance, if that's even a thing. Look at that figure. I didn't even go off that jump proper, and it still was very forgiving and let me recover. See, this is a cool car. I mean, ever since I did some of those really epic getaways with the Vigero, and I did a whole bunch of string of them together, you really do see this car for what it is, a really solid number 3 car. Although, for some driving styles, if you want something that's a little edgy but not so, gung-ho like the Faction, but close to it, the Vigero may very well suit you better. I mean, the Vigero is a bigger target slightly. It's wider. It's easier to hit with other cars, but in terms of ground clearance, it's not far off. Acceleration, it's definitely a little slower, but it's still quick enough, and it does a phenomenal job handling bumps, and it can climb a lot of vertical obstacles. It's just a great car. I just wish it came in more different varieties and interesting, unique colors. I mean, if they had a Stevie's Car Thefts version of this with one of those cool lustered paints, I would be all over that. I would pop yet another massive raging boner, but alas they don't, so I settle for some of their weird default colors. Here's what I mean about the bumps. Notice how even at really weird angles, and even hitting it unevenly, the car, it doesn't really mind. I mean, yeah, you see it take the bump, but I don't lose my line. Like, I'm able to keep in perfect control of the car. I mean, that's a really, really useful thing, because you never know where you're going to have to do something sketchy to get around the police, or, dodge traffic or something. You're going to have to come up with very creative routes. And the Vigero is also decently quick in a straight line. I mean, yeah, it's going to lose a drag race to a Faction, but it's not by much, and it's not as timid, or not timid, it's not sketchy in the dirt like the Faction is. The Faction, you got to be so careful with that thing, otherwise it's going to keep vacillating between understeer and oversteer. Whereas the Vigero, you can be pretty ham-fisted with it, and it won't really care. It reminds me a lot of the News Cruiser in that regard. And this was, I know when I recorded this, I had been out of practice in GTA 4. I still am. I'll probably need about 20 to 30 minutes of just intense, solid practicing with a couple of cars when I record more later tonight, but you expect the Vigero to be among those being recorded. I will do some of the Uranus, though. That car's kind of weird. And at this point, I figure, well, these choppers are being extremely annoying. I'm not really feeling them anymore. Like how this guy, I'm trying to do the crouch shot glitch so I can shoot faster, and he's out of range, but I don't think the other one is. You're in range, and you're going to die. There we go. That's always a fun sight to watch. Chopper on fire. Crashing. And there we go. That's the other chopper. So then I figure, well, this Vigero is kind of trashed, but if I stick with it, more Vigeros will spawn in traffic, because that's how GTA 4 spawning works. So don't get out of this car. I don't care if this thing's down to 0 tires and it's got black smoke. You don't get out of this car until you find yourself another Vigero. And, well, if you keep driving it, they're going to spawn more. Make sure to get them both. Here, watch this last shot. Pow, headshot. Yep, you ain't surviving that one, Mr. Shotgunner. So we're driving around some more and looking for potentially one other Vigero spawn. They do sometimes spawn some over by this way, but choppers and cop cars are looming near, and I'm not really feeling it. They didn't spawn a Vigero out here anyway, so I'm really, really not feeling it. And what you notice at the Vigero, I know some people say this about all-wheel drive cars in the real world, the fact that you need to have all 4 tires there and in good condition for it to drive properly. That's especially true of the Vigero. I mean, you lose even one rear tire and it becomes really, really loose, while also being really, really slow. I'm okay with a loose car if it's fast. Case in point, the Faction. But if it's slow and it's loose, it's really stupid, because you have to be so needlessly gentle and smooth with taking turns, and you're still taking them slower than if you had 4 properly inflated and good condition tires. So there's literally no reason to keep driving the car if it loses a tire. Just get another one or fix it with the health cheat. It makes no difference to me. Obviously, don't use the health cheat in the middle of a getaway. End the getaway and then whatever. You get the idea. And see, wow, look at how much better this drives with 4 to up, and I lost it. God damn it. I got so excited. I'm like, man, this is going to be my 4th or 5th Vigero at this ride. I got to find one that doesn't lose a tire in the first couple minutes. That didn't even last a minute with me at the wheel. Who am I kidding? So naturally, I do my civic duties of anti-aircraft fire onto the helicopter, and he goes down. I'm making sure I don't go too far away from my Vigero because I have a feeling we'll have to drive it some more and get another one that's parked or in traffic, and that ends up being the case. So I caused a little distraction, get the cop.
I knew this car felt kind of sketchy when I was driving there. I fucking knew it. Well, we gotta get another because I know where some of the park spawns are. And you think I'm not going to abuse that. Oh, I am ready to abuse the park spawns because this game has been putting a finger up my fucking ass crack for the past 10 minutes now, and I am damn well tired of it. Oh, look, a Sultan. Really, I'm not feeling it. I'd rather stick with this. I really don't like how the Sultan rides. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not an upgrade over this car. I can tell you that for a fact. Block it with this. Let's go! I can't afford to keep switching cars like this. I'm gonna get shot eventually. If not now, then later. There we go. Luckily the chopper somehow hasn't stopped or hasn't, reacquired me, even though I drove directly under him. God, it's so stupid sometimes. Oh, yeah, this is great. This feels so much better. Look at how much better the brakes are, too. This is hilarious. Only in GTA 4 land can a 67 or 68 Camaro/Firebird hybrid outbrake a fucking Lexus ES. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Woo! There we go! It handles it, too! This thing is great! I still wish I had a Deuce Cruiser or a... what do you call it? The... faction, but hey, I'll take this. No, I'm not going to use easy mode road. I'm going to go on different road because I have skill. Ha! Fuck you, GTA 4. You keep shooting out my tires. I had to go through 4 Vigeros before I found one that didn't lose his tires in 2 seconds. But god dang it, I'm happy that I did. There we go. I'm not even drunk and I'm already being kind of goofy. Nice car. Very nice car. I almost feel like doing a couple getaways with this, but I'd rather just use one of my properly colored ones. This might be one of those weird silvery blue. Good song, though. A good car. Long live the Vigero, the car that succeeded when many others simply couldn't be bothered.